What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move to Six, presented by Grifols Plasma Donation Centers. DJ Bucky back with you on a, I don't know, Buck, I just felt like the sun was shining a little brighter today. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's something I heard last night.
Yeah,
I don't know, but I feel alive. I feel alive today.
It must be different now that the weather's different. I mean, like we're both on remote. You're down in San Diego, I'm in LA. It's kind of overcast and gloomy here, so it's certainly not sunny and all things happy. So maybe it's just a coincidence with the baseball game, but it's overcast, it's gloomy. It doesn't feel the same. It's not the same normal weather that we normally get in LA. So maybe it'll change. It'll probably change on Friday.
Yeah. I don't know about that. But hey, shout out to Thomas, who showed up to work today. I didn't know if he was going to make it. I thought he might be a little bit depressed, but he did come, and so that's just being a professional right there. That's being a professional. We appreciate that. A lot of ground to hit today, Buck. We're going to talk about the big Chiefs-Bills game that's coming up. We're going to preview that for everybody. Talk about how things have changed scoring-wise early in the season here and what's the reasons for that. We'll hit that here in just a minute. And also going to look at some sack leaders, as well as an interesting conversation when we pulled up a stat that I think nobody's ever talked about. I don't think I've ever heard anybody discuss this stat, and we're going to shine light on why this could be something that could really help young quarterbacks establish themselves within their organization as well as around the league. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. But let's start off here with scoring. Let's pull it up right here. If you look at it from 2018 to 2022, look at where scoring is right now. Buck, it's as low as it's been here. 21.8 points per game on average across the league right now. Last year it was 23. In 2020 it was all the way up to 24.8. So that's a pretty significant number when you look at the decline there. You can see, the yards where those are. I don't think there's been a drastic shift there in the yards. But really the number that stands out the most is just points. What do you attribute it to?
Oh, I attribute it to what you see each week because you work with the Chargers. Brandon Staley and some of these defensive coordinators have decided that they are willing to concede yards but take away big plays. And the way that teams are taking away big plays is they're playing split safety defenses, meaning there are two ways to play defense in the secondary. You can play single high coverage where you have a safety in the middle. He's up on the goalpost making sure things don't fly over the top. Or you can play two safeties, split safeties, both guys on the hashes, whether you're playing cover 2 or cover 4 where everyone's dividing the field in quarters. What it does though is it takes away the big plays. And because more teams are saying, hey, we'll bend but don't break, we'll let you have all those yards and we will play great red zone defense. You're seeing teams drive from 20 to 20, but once they get inside the red zone, because the field is tighter, the windows are tighter for the quarterback to throw. And unless you've established or unless you have a dominant running game, you can't run the ball into the end zone. And so that's what we're seeing. And as a result, the scoring is down. And so to counterbalance that, you're going to have to run the ball better on early downs so you can get your explosive plays on first down when people are gearing up to stop the run and you're able to see single high safety coverage.
Yeah, I think that you kind of hit the main points there. I think also I think the lack of preseason play for a lot of these guys probably led to some offenses being a little bit slow out the gate. But you couple that with the coverage looks that you're seeing and just the importance of big plays. Brian Billick used to talk about this all the time, about if you look at explosives, that's a key indicator. Everybody talks about, third down turnovers in terms of success rate, but explosives and the explosives you generate versus preventing those on the other side are a huge indicator in winning games. So, hey, if you can drive the ball, 9, 10, 11 play drives and you punch it in, you tip your cap. But these defenses are just trying to limit those 3 and 4 play drives with all those big chunk plays down the field. They're just trying to take that away, and they're living with 5-yard runs and 6-yard runs versus trying to crowd the line of scrimmage and giving up 40, 50, 60-yard passes. So I think it'll start to come back a little bit as these offenses get more in a rhythm after missing a lot of time in the preseason. But you also have, as they're getting more in rhythm, the weather comes into play, and that negatively impacts you. So I do think it is a little bit of a change here in how the game's being played.
Yeah, DJ, like it's so funny, like playing defense for such a long time and for some great defense coordinators, they'll always tell you the number one thing that really matters, points. Don't worry about yards, but really the game boils down to turnovers, points allowed, and third down defense. And so you focus on those areas. Those areas are really the main areas that you practice on so you can be good at that. Willie Shaw, who is David Shaw, the coach at Stanford's dad, used to talk about that. You need to be able to look at your personnel and determine the style of play that you need to play on defense. When you got dudes, you can go after people. But when you don't have dudes, if you don't have premier talent, then what you do is you play a little more bend but don't break. You spend all your time making sure that you have a dominant red zone defense, meaning you have more coverages, more tricks up your sleeve once the ball gets into the 20-yard and in area. And that is how you stop people, because the whole focus is make them kick threes, don't give up sevens. Hard to beat you kicking threes. And we're seeing, because DJ, when I look at the Buffalo Bills, now the 49ers are at the top, and the Cowboys, 12 points per game. I mean, you're talking about historic numbers in terms of points allowed at that point. And I love the Buffalo Bills, but I'm not going to say that they have a couple old jacket players on that side of the ball. They're playing great team defense because the players that they have certainly understand the philosophy Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott have, and they're executing it to a T. Same can be said for San Francisco, even though I think San Francisco has better talent.
Yeah, I think those teams can all get after the quarterback too. You know, they all can hit you with waves of pass rushers to be able to get after quarterbacks. They've got corners that can play the ball, take the ball away. You know, those are complete defenses. You look at the linebackers for the Bills and the Niners. That's a loaded group too off the ball. So there's no secret. They're very talented teams. But I think it all starts up front, having guys in waves you can get after people, and then you can play that conservative coverage and still get after people up front. It's a way to generate some negative plays without giving up big chunk plays. That's a beautiful combination. That's how you play defense in 2022.
It absolutely is the best way to play defense in 2022. You can't worry about the yard total. You got to worry about being in points allowed and turnovers. You can take it away and don't give up points. You can win a ton of games.
All right, this next conversation we're going to have, we're going to take a little break here. When we come back, this next conversation, one I'm fascinated by, it actually started from a conversation with a baseball friend, and I think you guys will find it very interesting. Again, have not heard this discussion anywhere in terms of this stat, what it means, and how it can help your young quarterback. So we'll get to that right after this. Let's have some fun here, and let's get into this discussion about inside the 3-yard line touchdown passes. I know people are sitting there saying that's a random discussion for you guys to have, but I want you to hear me out on this one here. I'm talking to a buddy, works for a baseball team, who is a Jets fan, and he was talking about their game last week. Big win for the Jets. They beat the Dolphins 40-17. The Jets have 5 rushing touchdowns in this game. 4 of those 5 rushing touchdowns took place inside the 5-yard line. And he brought up a point and said, you know, when you've got a young quarterback, wouldn't you like to give him 2 of those, like just first down passes inside the 5? You had a couple first and goal at the 1. Those are play action. They're layups. You can leak a tight end out. You get the fullback out. Usually those are uncovered touchdowns. It kind of pads your stats a little bit, which people say, oh, that's ridiculous. But I want to pull up the leaders in touchdowns inside the 3-yard line. And if we go to last year, look at this. Listen to these numbers, Buck. Inside the 3-yard line, Patrick Mahomes, 12 touchdowns, no picks. Stafford, 11 touchdowns, no picks. Brady, 10 touchdowns, no picks. 10 touchdowns, no picks. Prescott, 8 touchdowns, no picks. Matt Ryan, 6 touchdowns, no picks. These coaches are giving these quarterbacks layup touchdowns that have absolutely zero risk. No interceptions for those guys down there inside the 3. 0.
Well, one of the things that I take away from that is, one, the coach has to trust the quarterback to throw the ball that close to the end zone, because you have sure points if you run it in. If you keep running it, you would like to think that you eventually crack the code and you score a touchdown. 2, when you have older quarterbacks, and a bunch of those guys are very experienced quarterbacks, you can trust them to make good decisions in the red area. Things happen quicker, but you tell the guy, hey, either you hit your guy, you throw it out of bounds so we can live to play another day. But you are right in terms of where we're getting to. When you begin to take advantage of the layup touchdowns inside the 3, what you're able to do is pad your young quarterback stats. And so much criticism is levied at the quarterback, and people love to use the touchdown interception ratio as the basis of that argument. Well, now if you're able to give him 5 to 6 gimme touchdowns, it tilts the ratio, and maybe young quarterback looks like he's performing at a high level, even though you really kind of kind of put it in his favor. It's just another way to build confidence for your young player by giving them some easy completions, some easy scores, some easy wins that will help him as he continues to grow and mature, hopefully into the franchise quarterback that you envision.
Yeah, it's all about perception, right? And sometimes perception's reality. And people look around the league and they're going to parrot that number. What were your touchdowns and interceptions? And we say, oh, those are antiquated stats. They still hold weight in terms of what people think about you, not only within the building but around the league, and also in a big media market like that one. If you look at this year's guys, Patrick Mahomes already has 7 touchdowns inside the 3-yard line this year. 7 touchdowns, no picks. Brady's got 3 no picks. Cousins 3 no picks. No picks. Goff 3 no picks. It's just a way to give a guy some extras. And look, I'm not banging on the Jets here. They're trying to win games. They are and really trying to get this thing going. They got to do what they got to do to score points. But I'm just saying it is food for thought there. Man, if you can give these guys some of these easy ones, it's going to help them not only pump their numbers, it's going to pump their confidence up because it just looks different. When you look at that box score, I thought Zach Wilson played really well. He was 14 of 21 for 210 yards. It looks a little bit different, though, if you throw 2 or 3 touchdowns on that line as opposed to 5 rushing touchdowns that they had. Again, you got to win games. Coaches are charged with winning games, but I do think that can get you going a little bit. And Andy Reid has been as good as anybody. He's done that going back to Philadelphia. He's always done a good job of baking in some easy completions in between the 20s, and then when you get down there close, hey, give your quarterback a little love. Give him some layups, give him some freebies. And I just don't know where the risk is. When I looked at the rest of this list from last year, Buck, I mean, Tannehill had 6 touchdowns, 1 pick. Carson Wentz, 6 touchdowns, 1 pick. All these guys, it's majority of no interceptions. You have a couple sprinkled in, but it's very rare.
Yeah, take care of the football. Man, number one thing is you just have to emphasize to the quarterback. Here's where we are. Here's the situation. Just make sure you take care of the ball. The ball either goes to us or it goes out the back of the end zone. Let's make sure you make good decisions with the ball. But I will say this. What I'm hearing, DJ, quietly is more shovel passes for everybody. More trickeration down at the goal line to get those easy completions where your tight end or your tackle or somebody walks into the end zone because you have a little tricky play. I get what you're saying. You want a little flag football element so some other guys can score these touchdowns that make the quarterback look good.
Well, I mean, how many times have you seen Mahomes in the gun, a little shovel pass to the tight end, Mahomes in the gun, a little speed, you get a little motion, a little speed pop. Boop. I mean, it's just
speed sweep.
And Mahomes is unbelievable. Yeah, the speed sweep. Boop. It just catch. Boop. That's it. That's all you got to do. I mean, Mahomes is as good a quarterback as we have in this league. But those numbers, you wipe 10 to 12 touchdowns off of his tally every year because they just hand the ball off and run it inside the 3-yard line. Those numbers look different, man. I'm not saying it takes away from him as a player. I'm just saying that helps the numbers look a little different.
Oh, it does. It does look a little different. And the speed sweep thing is certainly a way to get around the passing thing while basically having it run in play. Because the little touch pass, because it goes forward, it counts in the passing stats, but it's really a running play.
Yeah, he drops it. It's incomplete pass. No harm, no foul. Go back to Rich Rod back in the West Virginia days. Those were fun ones to watch. All right, there you go. Yeah. That was just a little outside the box discussion I wanted to have there, Buck. That was a fun one. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. 2 dangerous offenses. Might be the game of the year. It definitely was the game of last year in the postseason with the Bills and the Chiefs putting on a show. Came down to the very end. I think we see a repeat of that. We're going to have a fun one to watch. We'll preview that one right after this. It's time for Show Your Good Side, presented by Asthma Donation Centers, and looking at what should be the game of the week, maybe the game of the year. It was last year. The Bills taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, and a game that very well could decide home field advantage. I know it's early in this. This is looked like this could be a collision course for these two teams in the postseason. I know the Bills, as you've played there, Buck, would love. You played both these places, so where this game takes place in the postseason is a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. You want home field advantage, and you have to understand where we are right now in the season. We can talk about being at a quarter point, but those two teams know that they're going to be in the postseason, and they are vying for the number 1 seed because you want this game, if it's played in the championship, to be played on your field. So if you're the Buffalo Bills, particularly, the way that you lost that game last year, you certainly feel like it would be different if it was in your home stadium. So, yeah, there's a lot placed on this game. It's a big game. You can't deny it. You can't minimize it. You can't downplay it. It is a big game, particularly for the Buffalo Bills. I can't wait to see how they handle it, because the challenge is, because the Kansas City Chiefs have been your personal nemesis, play this game free from emotion so you don't have the highs and lows that take place in these games. If they can do that, then I think they can lock in and really knock off the Kansas City Chiefs, because they had this game in the bag. It slipped. Now you get a chance to kind of make amends for that mistake. Depends on how they handle their emotions. It's really big. More the emotional part than the execution part.
What's the lesson that they can take from that last game that they lost in overtime? You see the score on the bottom of the screen there, 42-36. What lesson can the Bills take from that to get it done this time?
Oh, I think it's the finish. I think they have to understand the urgency to finish. DJ, one of the things about the Kansas City Chiefs and why the Kansas City Chiefs will be a tough out for everybody in the postseason, when you've gone to championship games and to the Super Bowl, you urgency that is needed to win these critical games in the postseason. The Buffalo Bills have been far, but they haven't been over the threshold. And so they have to understand how critical it is at any point of the game, how these plays really, really matter. And so bringing that urgency for a full 60 minutes, man, that is hard to do, but you don't learn how to do it until you play in these games. So because they played in this game a year ago, they now better understand the urgency of the moment, how everything matters. Offense, defense, special teams, finishing out the half, finishing drives with 7s instead of 3s, playing 2-minute defense at the end of games. Their antennas are up. So now they know. So when coaches are talking about those things, you're less likely to doze off, and more likely because you have a vivid example of how you lost an opportunity to maybe go to the Super Bowl because you didn't take care of defense. You didn't take care of the details in critical areas. Yeah, I think they learned a lot. Now, can they apply it? That's the thing. It's one thing to know it. It's another thing to apply it.
Yeah, I'm curious about this one fact here, because remember we were calling that game for Amazon on Thursday night. It was 2 years ago, I believe, right? And that was the game, the first time we saw somebody really deploy put the safeties in the parking lot, and we're not going to give up.
Park them in the parking lot.
Kansas City Chiefs. Yep, and the Chiefs, I think it was Edwards-Helaire, whoever it was, they ran the ball down their throats in that game, and the Chiefs kind of just grinded it out and got a win. And even go to last year, the score was high, but Mahomes did his thing, 378 yards. But they ran for 182 yards, because I think that was, again, the thinking of Buffalo was, we're going to try our best to limit exposure against big plays, and we're going to give you run game stuff. I think this will be curious to see without Tyreek Hill, who went 11 for $150 in that game last year. Do we see a little different approach here from this Buffalo Bills defense without Tyreek Hill? Do they try and get after it a little bit more again and maybe leave themselves a little more vulnerable back in and take their chances?
I think so, DJ, because now when you look at the matchups across the board, outside of Travis Kelce, if I'm the Buffalo Bills, I'm willing to play man-to-man. I'm willing to see if Juju Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman, MVS, if those guys can beat me one-on-one. I would like to think that we can hold up. You know, the Buffalo Bills are a team that really operates in zone. They play an umbrella coverage, keep everything in front, and they are willing to play the game that you're not as disciplined nor as patient as we are on defense, and eventually the quarterback is going to make a mistake. Well, in this game, you might feel like you're superior to the Kansas City Chiefs, Bills defense compared to their offense. You may walk up and lock them up, and then that will give you a chance to better control the running game and force Pat Mahomes to throw when everyone in the building knows that he has to throw.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fascinating to see what they do. And then Kansas City, can they funnel everything through Kelce? Can they keep him going when everybody in the stadium knows where it is? That's going to be the other side of this thing that'll be fascinating.
Oh, it certainly would be fascinating. Like, the thing that I want to see going to the Buffalo Bills side is, look, you got to deal with Kansas City Chiefs. You got to deal with Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce had 4 touchdowns a week ago, but he only had 25 yards. So the Raiders' plan was solid until they got into the red zone. So how are the Bills going to handle that? Now, on the flip side, if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, and you pointed out the running game and the success that they've had on the ground, can I be stubborn when it comes to running the football? I know Andy Reid likes to throw it. He wants to operate in that 60-40 world pass run ratio. But if the Buffalo Bills are going to concede yards, 5 and 6 yards at a time, you have to run it. Because if you run it, you now are able to keep maybe the more explosive offense on the sideline and Josh Allen and company. This might be a game where we see the Kansas City Chiefs flip the script, play a little slower, a little more turtle offense, Josh Allen and company from having the ball and being able to do what they do offensively.
No doubt. It's going to be a fun one to watch. I hope we get an entertaining game. I do think we will. When it's all said and done, this could decide home field advantage, so a lot at stake in this matchup, Bills and the Chiefs. All right, Buck, before we get out of here, I want to go quickly through the leaders in sacks. It's always interesting to kind of take a peek at that periodically and kind of see what's playing, what's working. So we've got Max Crosby, we've got Matthew Judon, we've got Nick Bosa, and we've got Micah Parsons, all tied with 6 sacks. We've got Bradley Chubb and Alex Highsmith with 5.5. And going through these cut-ups and looking at this, some things jumped out to me. I think, power rush has never been more important than it is now. Being able to collapse the pocket, you're seeing that. You're also seeing a nice job of these coordinators for these guys, figuring out a way via loops, via alignment to get them on guards, tight ends, and running backs. If you can find a mixture of those, man, you can do some damage. They're not equipped to block elite players like these.
No, you're not. For a long time, these defensive players have been viewed as like superheroes. I mean, capable of leaping tall buildings in a single bound, and they're able to do it over and over and over again. And what is remarkable about the way that the game has evolved is you're seeing these guys get after the passer from a 3-point or an upright stance. And so that now gives you a lot of different options because there's so much versatility that you can do when you have these athletes that can do a little bit of everything. Stand up, come off the edge, hand down, come off the edge, and also stop the run, occasionally drop into coverage. And so you're seeing these super athletes. It's also not lost on me, DJ, most of the guys that you pointed out are first-round picks, former first-round picks who had full toolboxes. You're seeing that now. We can talk about will, we can talk about motor and all that other stuff, but there's a skill level that you must have to be an elite pass rusher more times than not. We're seeing it's a battle of the elites at the charts. I'm not surprised. I think it's another part of the way the game is shifting towards a pass-centric premise. And now defensive coordinators are on it, and they're really placing a premium on finding these big-time pass rushers in the draft early in the draft, not waiting in development.
Yeah, and if you're looking for, the two guys I thought that kind of popped off there, I've always said that Nick Bosa, I think, is the best leverage rusher in the league, just in terms of being able to get into guys, get underneath them, and overpower them. He's as good as there is. But the two that jumped out to me, Max Crosby, when you watch his cut-ups, and then you watch Micah Parsons, these guys are just different, man. Max Crosby, if you're looking for comparisons, he looks just like Jared Allen. Allen was in his heyday. He's so long. He's got such a knack. He can finish. He's unbelievable, man. So to me, I'm watching him and go, Jesus, he looks just like Jared Allen. And his length is a major problem. He never stops. The motor never stops. And Micah Parsons, I don't know if we've made this comparison, Buck, but I know you were around him. When you see him rushing off the edge, do you get any of those Derek Thomas vibes from him?
Man, his squatty body comes off the edge. Look, his first step quickness and burst is outstanding. I would say that when I think about Derek Thomas, I think about the get off being the primary factor, and that's Von Miller. When I think about Michael Parsons, I just think of a Tasmanian devil, a guy who is not only looking A-level athlete tools that you want at the position, but man, he is a nonstop worker bee. And so when you combine great talent with great tenacity, these are the things that you get. And the versatility, meaning the ability to bring him from different rush points. Sometimes he's off the edge. Sometimes he's at depth attacking the guard. Sometimes he's looping around as part of a game at the line of scrimmage. Man, Dan Quinn is able to get in his bag and do things that we've never seen Dan Quinn do because he has a remarkable athlete. I know people hate talking about the Lawrence Taylor thing and he's not Lawrence Taylor and all this. I get that. But I think when people are making that comparison to Lawrence Taylor, what they're saying is not necessarily skill for skill, but they're talking about the presence and the impact. The one thing that we can say through 20 plus games of watching Michael Parsons as a pro, you feel his presence every game. There's not a game that he hasn't made some kind of splash play to remind you of, oh yeah, he is definitely one of the best defensive players in the league. And some could make the argument, maybe he is the best player in the league and on defense.
Yeah, no, I looked it up. I looked up the size on that. So Derek Thomas, who you were with, 6'3", 255. Micah Parsons, 6'3", 245. So same build,
Oh, yeah.
very similar in terms of their build. But I think
Same build. I will say this about
with Derek.
Yeah, I will say this about the comparison. Derek was more of a every down DN, even though they played in a 3-4 scheme. He was the Falcon, but look, the Falcon was rushing 95, 98% of the time. The difference stylistically in their game, Derek Thomas was all about first step quickness, snap count anticipation. He also had a bend where we talk about guys that can drag their knuckles on the ground in terms of getting low. That was Derek Thomas's thing. Micah, to me, is a unique combination of having the power, more like a Khalil Mack when he has the power, but he also has a little more than Mack displayed as a pass rusher. He got some wiggle. He has some other stuff where you'll see him kind of jump around guards and stuff. Khalil Mack, to me, never had that. He just dominated as a force of nature, a bull in a china shop. So he kind of has a blend of skills that really makes him impossible to deal with because speed, power, toughness, all of it, he has it in spades.
Yeah, he's on his way to 20 sacks. He keeps this up. I think he's got a good shot at getting there. All right, Buck, do something right now that Trey Turner was unable to do in the field last night. Why don't you execute this read here for NFL Plus?
Oh, man, this is another thing. I've been waiting for this to happen. NFL Plus is the league's new exclusive video streaming subscription service. NFL Plus has your game day covered with live local and primetime regular season and postseason games right on your phone or tablet. NFL Plus is available in the NFL app and at NFL.com. Subscription plans start at just $4.99 a month. Fans can visit plus.nfl.com and sign up for a free trial of NFL Plus today.
That was outstanding. That was outstanding. One of the best reads I've ever heard. I want to get one baseball take in before we get out of here, and I'm not making any bold predictions. It's a 1-1 series. My Padres, your Dodgers. It's at least it's competitive at this point in time. But I will say this about baseball that drives me nuts. I'm all for numbers. I'm all for analytics. And over a 162 game season, just open that analytics book and just read right out of it and go. But when I heard last night, our buddy who's been on the show, who we both love, Dave Roberts, who's, look, he's done a great job. He's got the Dodgers playing at a very high level for a very long time. But when they asked him his pinch hitting decision last night, I don't know if you saw this, but they said, why not Chris Taylor, somebody who's hit walk-off home runs in the postseason, someone who lives for these big pressure moments and always delivers. And you put in Austin Barnes, your backup catcher. Why'd you do that? He said, well, we just felt like his swing path matched up better with Josh Hader's high fastball, so that's why we made that decision. And I'm just like, dude, close the analytic book and just bet on people, okay? Bet on people that love pressure and love big moments, and then if you go down swinging, you go down swinging. But when I heard that, I was like, man, this is the analytic stuff that I can't get on board with.
Yeah, it's tough, man, because I like to fancy myself as a guy that's on the forefront of the analytical movement. I love numbers. I love looking at those things or whatever, but there's still a lot of old school in me when it comes to the way games are played. And so being able to mix and match some of the data and some of the stuff that you get that is very helpful when it comes to the analytical data with also a gut instinct, a feel that comes from being around the game, growing up in the game, and those things. I like it when it's more like that. I understand because, look, the Dodgers have been very successful. How can you argue with a team that has won 111 or whatever regular season games? But the postseason is the postseason. And now we're not talking about a full slate. We're talking about 5 games, best of 3. It's first 1 to 3. You got to make these decisions, and you got to be able to live with the decisions. And so for me, man, the gut, I would like to feel like, hey, I trusted my gut. I knew what the numbers were, but I went on hunches and instinct as opposed to sometimes the data that we always talk about.
Yeah, in football, just be similar to 4th down. I want to get the ball in my best player's hands. However you got to do that, figure out a way. I'm gonna live and die, win or lose, with my best guys. And I thought that was just kind of that's a difference between the numbers and what you see kind of as a traditional fence. So that's all the baseball I'm gonna give you. I'm not making any more bold predictions. I'm gonna go Friday night, finger crossed. And we'll see what happens here, Padres Dodgers. Encourage you guys, check out more Move the Sticks content. You can find it on NFL's YouTube channel. You can find NFL.com. or the NFL app. Appreciate you guys hanging with us. Hope you have a great football weekend. We've got an awesome slate of games. We'll be back to talk about it here on Monday, right here on Move the Sticks, presented by Grifols Plasma Donation Centers.